The story centers on Mark, a mundane office worker seeking a fresh start in a small, unassuming apartment following a recent and painful breakup. He hoped the change of scenery would mend his fractured heart, but the solace he sought was quickly replaced by a creeping, inexplicable dread. As night fell, his new home transformed into a theater of the strange. It began subtly, with objects shifting from their places when his back was turned. A coffee mug on the counter would appear on the floor. A book left on his nightstand would be found open on the living room sofa. Soon, the unsettling occurrences escalated. Doors, which he was certain he had closed and locked, would creak open on their own, revealing nothing but the darkened hallway beyond. The silence of the apartment became heavy, punctuated only by the thumping of his own heart and the phantom noises that seemed to emanate from the very walls. The most terrifying phenomenon, however, was a recurring physical sensation. In the dead of night, while lying in bed or sitting at his desk, he would feel it, a cold, unseen hand gripping his shoulder. The touch was firm, possessive, and sent a paralyzing chill through his entire body. Each time it happened, he would spin around, his breath catching in his throat, only to find himself utterly alone in the empty room. The feeling was so distinct, so real, that he began to doubt his own sanity. Was the stress of the breakup manifesting in these terrifying hallucinations? Or was something truly malevolent sharing his new home? The hand's presence became more frequent, its grip more insistent, a silent, icy promise of something terrible to come. As the supernatural disturbances intensified, morphing from unsettling pranks into outright threats, Mark's desperation drove him to investigate the history of the apartment building. Sleep-deprived and on edge, he spent hours digging through old city records and online forums, searching for any clue that could explain the haunting. His search led him to a chilling discovery about his own unit. He wasn't the first to experience the strange phenomena. He uncovered the dark past of the building. A previous tenant, a man whose name was now just a footnote in a cold case file, had vanished mysteriously from this very apartment years ago. The police had found no signs of forced entry, no ransom note, no body. The man had simply ceased to exist, leaving behind only one disturbing piece of evidence. Deep, claw-like scratches gouged into the plaster of the walls, hidden beneath a fresh coat of paint that Mark had never thought to question. A cold dread washed over him as he ran his fingers over the faint ridges he could now feel on his own bedroom wall. The knowledge of the building's history seemed to embolden the entity. The invisible hand, once a fleeting, ghostly touch, grew more aggressive, its intentions becoming terrifyingly clear. It was no longer content with just gripping his shoulder. One night, as he tried to flee the apartment in a panic, the unseen force grabbed him with immense strength, dragging him back from the front door. He struggled against the invisible grip, his feet scraping against the floorboards as he was pulled inexorably toward the bedroom, the same room where the claw marks were found. It was a battle against an unseen foe, a fight for his life against a presence that wanted to keep him, to consume him just as it had the tenant before. The air grew frigid, and a low, guttural sound, like a distorted whisper, echoed in the silence. Though no words were distinguishable, it was the sound of pure malice. In a final, desperate attempt to escape the apartment's clutches, a horrifying realization dawned on Mark. This wasn't a random haunting. The entity hadn't simply been waiting in the apartment for any new resident. It had been waiting for him. He remembered the moment he first viewed the apartment, a strange, inexplicable chill he had felt upon crossing the threshold, a feeling he had dismissed at the time as a simple draft. Now he understood. The entity had chosen him from the very moment he stepped inside, drawn to his vulnerability, his loneliness, his despair after the breakup. He wasn't a victim of circumstance. He was a carefully selected target. But this profound, terrifying insight came too late. The force dragging him was too powerful, its will absolute. His struggle weakened, his hope extinguished. The final moments of the story do not show his fate, but leave it to the imagination. The screen cuts to the silent, empty apartment, looking just as it did when Mark first moved in. The only sound is the eerie silence, and then the faint, chilling echo of new footsteps, walking purposefully behind where the camera and the audience now stand. The final leaves only eerie silence, and the faint echo of footsteps behind him,